This is Southern Cross News with Rachel Williams.
Good evening and welcome to Southern Cross News. Community anger continues to build over the lack of access to surgical abortions. 6 months since Tasmania's last clinic closed, a replacement is yet to be opened. The government's saying it is in discussions with a potential provider.
The wait continues. Tasmanian women growing increasingly impatient with the lack of access to surgical abortions. The last surgical termination centre closed more than 6 months ago, and there is still no replacement.
It's definitely making it harder, and it's making it more of a traumatic experience. It's putting more stress on the situation, and that can lead to people not being able to feel like they have the choice.
In 2013, after a lengthy fight, abortions were decriminalised in the state. But now some say we've taken a step backwards. Questions raised over why a legal operation is so hard to access.
It is having an impact. We're seeing women perhaps consider taking drastic measures and doing unsafe things to try and procure an abortion themselves.
It's very concerning. I mean, it impacts all women, but particularly those in vulnerable situations, like living in a rural location or low socioeconomic.
The government says it's in discussions with another provider and recognises the need for women to have access to services within the state.
There are ongoing discussions with a provider and the government is hopeful that they will make a statement in the not too distant future as to their intentions.
A funding scheme currently assists women travelling to Melbourne for the procedure. The Murray Stopes Family Planning Organisation saying the impact of travelling was leading to patients requiring additional counselling and support, and it had offered assistance. The not-for-profit organisation saying so far the government was yet to accept its offer, but it does still stand. Murray Stopes saying it will continue to work collaboratively with the Tasmanian community to see a service up and running.
It's a decision that women make in the most difficult of circumstances, and it's about equity of access.
The Health Minister will update the Parliament on July 3. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
Hobart City aldermen have accused the Lord Mayor of not representing his council after the future of dark mofo funding was questioned yesterday. The council's 3-year funding deal with the iconic festival is set to end after this year's event and will then be reviewed. The Lord Mayor raising concerns over its controversial themes, saying it was not family friendly and he'd already received thousands of complaints. But his fellow aldermen had different ideas today.
We all have personal opinions, and I don't believe that we as decision makers of this city should be putting our personal decisions in front of what is best for the city of Hobart.
The Lord Mayor's comments are controversial, and I suppose that may be a good thing, but it just seems like a really unfounded position to take.
David Walsh himself has lashed out at the Lord Mayor, saying that if the festival were to be tamed, it would no longer be successful. Back home, and tenants from Common Ground Housing have raised concerns over plans to abolish the housing model from a site in Hobart. But the government says the site will continue to provide accommodation for those in need.
These tenants today fighting for their homes, expressing concerns over the government's changes to the Common Ground housing system, a model aimed at ending homelessness.
It's going to affect my whole life. And honestly, I feel like if this transition goes through, that I have to look at what am I going to do? Where am I going to go?
In December 2017, the state government announced Anglicare would manage the Goulburn and Campbell Street sites. But that on July 1, the Goulburn Street model would cease.
But I think one of the issues is the fact that the security will be lost, the support will be drastically decreased, and as a result of the state government's decision to abolish the model, that social mix will no longer exist.
The government also saying today that the current arrangements with Salvation Army Housing for the Campbell Street supported accommodation will continue until June 2020.
Because it will still be part of Salvation Armies, and therefore the Common Ground model actually still stands under Salvation Army.
Ruby Kamain, Southern Cross News.
A new clubhouse overlooking Launceston's main tennis precinct is a step closer to development. Half of the required funding has been locked in for the project, which is expected to help Tasmania attract more high-profile events.
This is the vision to modernise tennis in the north, a state-of-the-art complex offering views over Launceston's show courts.
We're looking at a two-storey development with some open spaces that can be used as office spaces year-round with a pro shop and a cafe.
Today, the state government announced it will foot half the bill, committing $2 of the $4 million required. And that's no spin, according to Guy Barnett.
It's in the budget. We're backing tennis, we're backing physical activity and sport.
The ball is now in Tennis Tasmania's court to lobby the federal government and local council for the remaining funding. The lack of a dedicated clubhouse is considered one of the site's biggest faults, preventing it from attracting larger events like a Fed Cup tie.
What the players lack at the moment is this site becomes a shipping yard, essentially. Like, we bring in containers and temporary infrastructure.
Construction is expected to take 10 months if the project goes ahead. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
A Greens candidate for the upcoming Braddon by-election is campaigning to see Aboriginal heritage reflected in the names of our federal electorates. Jared Edwards has requested the Braddon electorate be renamed Laney after 19th century Tasmanian Aboriginal William Laney. The Laney family is believed to be the last Tasmanian Aboriginal family to have lived a traditional life in the state. The Greens candidate also asking his fellow by-election candidates to back the move. Investigations are continuing into a report of smoke at the Hobart Private Hospital this afternoon. The Tasmania Fire Service arrived on the scene at midday, remaining there until 3, leading to the lengthy closure of 2 lanes on Argyle Street. Initial investigations suggest the incident was only minor. The Hobart City Council has renewed calls for the public to donate missing blood types. The Red Cross Blood Service relies on to meet patient needs. Types A, B and O are among those needed every 24 hours. The Blood Service also calling for 100,000 new donors nationwide this year. Footy fans heading to Utah's stadium have dug deep for Give Me 5 for Kids. The annual Wheelie Bin Walk seeing generous Hawks and Suns fans raise money for life-saving equipment for children's wards in hospitals around the state. The fundraising effort comes ahead of the Give Me 5 for Kids telethon on Tuesday.
There's been a boil-over in the TSL. The struggling Tigers pulling off an incredible upset to beat the Blues. Meanwhile, Lauderdale easily accounted for North Hobart, while Glenorchy has crushed Clarence at KG5. Glenorchy has a strong record at KG5, but few expected an onslaught quite like this. The Pies stunned the Roos, booting the first 10 majors of the game. The second-place Clarence had no spark and couldn't find a way back into the contest following the shock introduction. 53 points the final margin. Lauderdale had no trouble defeating North Hobart. The D's kept to a single goal until half-time, while the Bombers kicked away. Lauderdale cruising to an easy 42-point win. The bad omens came from the very start for the Blues, a sick and sorry Miller Hodge taken from the ground early on. Emboldened, the Tigers found a new leash on life, Heath Thompson converting to get the side fired up. Then Blake McCulloch entered the fray, dribbling one through an open goal square. When leadership was needed most, you could count on Sam Lonigan. In just his second outing for 2018, the skipper nailed 3 majors. But Trent Bomella's men held on for a huge upset, winning just their second game for the year by 15 points. In the Seaball overnight, the Launceston Tornadoes returned to the winners list with a 28-point win over the Centre of Excellence in Canberra, while the men's Hobart Chargers fell 8 points short. All 4 Tasmanian teams are back in action tonight. The AFL Inclusion Carnival has wrapped up with the Division 2 final played out between Western Australia and the Northern Territory. The carnival enables people with an intellectual disability to compete in a State of Origin style series. Tasmania narrowly missed out on today's main game after going down in the semi, leaving Western Australia to take the crown.
Trying to prove that I'm the greatest ruckman in all of them. And hopefully give a lot of hell in the back line everywhere I play.
Victoria beat South Australia in the Division 1 final. And forget Shane Warne's ball of the century. How about Brendan Favola's boot of the day? Big Fev pulling out this party trick while playing for South Burnie, somehow bending it back for a goal. The 37-year-old enjoyed a winning day out, South Burnie getting up over Caprona 106-34.
Good evening. Showers left over from a cold front persisted in the northeast with some scattered showers in the west and south. Hobart a top of 12 degrees today, 14 in Launceston with sunny skies for the footy. Burnie 12, Devonport getting to a top of 13. The state's top was 16 degrees at St Helens. Elsewhere, King Island, Flinders Island, Smithton and the Friendly Beaches all 13. 12 at Low Head and Strawn. Ooze up to 11 today. -1 on Mount Wellington overnight, up to a top of 0 today. Taking a closer look now, and scattered low-level cloud over the entire state, other than the east coast, which remained mostly cloud-free. Across the country today, in low-level cloud over southern coastal areas, the remainder relatively cloud-free due to a high pressure system. Tomorrow the high will move into the Bight and dominate the weather over most of the country. Coastal waters and southwesterly winds at 15 to 25 knots, reaching 25 to 35 knots in the south and lower east early on. Swells up to 4 to 6 metres in the west and south. Onto the warnings, and a gale warning is current from Wineglass Bay to Southeast Cape, a strong wind warning from St Helens Point to Wineglass Bay, and from Southeast Cape to Low Rocky Point, also including Storm Bay and the Channel. The forecast now, a light shower for Hobart, a top of 12. Possible shower for Richmond, 12 also. Ooze, a top of 10. A fine day for Launceston, 13. Devonport expecting 13 also. 10 on the way for Deloraine. Fine conditions for Burnie, 13. Showers for Strawn, 12. A light shower for Curry, 13 the top. St Helens and Whitemark 13 and a partly cloudy day. Swansea a fine day with a high of 12 degrees. As we look ahead to Monday, showers about the west and far south, fine elsewhere after some patchy frost and fog. Tuesday showers again in the west, mainly about the coast, but a fine day elsewhere. And on to Wednesday, nothing new, showers once more about the west coast, fine elsewhere with some patchy morning frost and fog. Capital cities now, and Darwin a sunny day, 13, Brisbane fine and 23. Sydney 16, Canberra -3 up to 13, Adelaide 15, a fine day for Perth 21, and a possible shower for Melbourne, a top of 13 degrees.
Wonderful, thank you for that, Laura. Well, that's all your news for now. Thanks for joining us. Good night.